all I'm interested in is finding people who are actually qualified to come, motivated to come and work with them, or people who don't mind taking a chance at maybe a 20-30% chance, but they know it and they understand it and they're willing to do it because, it's worth doing it than not doing it.
Hello, fellow entrepreneurs and Triple M Nation. This is Steve Hamoen here, and this is the Money, Mindset, and Mentoring Podcast, your go-to resource for breaking financial plateaus and taking your business to the next level. Whether you're just starting your entrepreneurial experience or you're a seasoned veteran striving for expansion, you are in the right place. As myself, as a successful entrepreneur in tech, construction, real estate, mortgages and financing, and in my business consulting, I have helped countless individuals achieve their financial success by pinpointing their challenges and guiding them to creating massively successful outcomes. Now, don't worry. It doesn't matter if you're making under $100,000 or if you're making well over $1 million. This show's intention is to offer you a fresh perspective and provide actionable advice to help you drive your success. Each week, we bring in powerful stories of guests who've wrestled with challenges, much like yours, and have emerged victorious. These stories are not far-fetched fantasies. They are possible and they are real. And they are a testament to what you can achieve with the right mindset and the right strategies. Expect an in-depth market analysis, empowering insight into sales and marketing and HR, and above all, an unwavering commitment to you to guide you towards achieving your financial goals. So are you ready to unlock your entrepreneurial potential? Join me every week on all the major platforms. Welcome to the Money, Mindset, and Mentoring Podcast, where success isn't just a dream, it's a journey we will embark on together. Hey everybody, it's Steve here. I'm so excited for our episode. We have Blayne Kumar of Bright Immigration, and we are going to talk about one of the highly most talked about subjects that happen in Canada is immigration. And now this is something that is really important, really all around the world. So Blayne, do a little introduction. Let's get this thing going.
Yeah, let's do it. So my name is Blayne Kumar. I'm the CEO and founder of an award-winning immigration firm called Bright Immigration based out of Toronto. And of course, we also have two platforms I'm very excited to share later on, but with all in and around immigration that we built to service the immigration market because we've seen a lot of issues. So be happy to share some of those with you as we're going.
Absolutely. Well, issues are certainly something that we love talking about. And, when I look at immigration, when my family first came over from the Netherlands, my dad, when he showed up with a chest. They got on a boat, which was Holland America, actually, was one who was doing the cruise ships back and forth, but they weren't really cruise ships back then. And, they got off the boat, couldn't speak a lick of English, and boom, go figure your stuff out. How's that changed to today? What does today look like?
Oh, today's very different. I have a little joke. I say Canada's like Tesla now, and Canada was like Tesla 15 years ago. So what I mean by that is Canada's far more desirable than it was ever. It is the number one destination country for most of the world. It's surpassing the US, UK, Australia in terms of preference and settlement. So whereas back in the 70s, 80s, and I would even go as far to say the 90s, Canada was definitely in the other side of things. They were at the top. They were really competing with other countries for immigration and trying to get people to come to Canada. So even when my family migrated from Trinidad and Fiji, my dad's from Fiji, mom's from Trinidad, I'm a different immigrant story. They came and Canada was looking for definitely workers or skill sets, but it was far easier for them to immigrate than it is now.
Yeah, no, that I do want to go to Fiji though, man. You see that family back there?
Yeah, Forbes magazine, I remember coming across an article maybe a handful of years ago, listed Fijians to be the happiest people in the world. And when you go there, you're like, okay, they're poor.
I think Tony Robbins has a place there, does he not?
Oh, I bet. Yeah.
Yeah, he's got a place there. He says that. Yeah,
it's amazing.
It's unreal.
When I was young, I was walking to islands. When there's low tide, you could literally just walk from one island to another.
That's amazing. That's amazing. When you talk about the happiest population ever, let's talk about Canadian population, right? Are immigrants feeling happy as they come over?
Yes and no. Like, I know you hear a lot of stories of the dooms, like, oh my God, well, why did I come, or the hardships. You know, my parents, and I'm sure your family and my parents and my grandparents shared stories of cult and respect, right? Like, so it's never easy. I can't imagine. I can't imagine what it takes. And a lot um, I have a lot of respect for those who make that job, but it is a journey. It's not meant to be an easy thing. So,
Hmm.
I was born here. It's not an easy country for me, and I'm sure, yourself, and, keeping up with everything we have to keep up with. It's not even easy for us. So for someone coming into the country new, it's definitely not an easy thing. So yes, but I definitely speak to a whole heap of people who really, really, really happy to be here. They love Canada. Especially I find that folks where they have young children or plan to have kids, and they're just, nothing's perfect in the world. Everything has got its pluses and minuses. But, even when I speak to people who are a little skeptical, kind of like, oh, we got to move somewhere else. We're like, weird. And we really I had a conversation this weekend actually with a good friend, and we're like, where where do you live? And
Oh,
that's what
absolutely. When you
yeah,
look at the Canadian government, and everybody has the things that they love about the government, and everybody has the things that they loathe about the government.
of
And it
course,
doesn't matter how you are politically. And then you go, okay, great. I'm gonna get out of here and I'm gonna go somewhere else. What does that other place look like? And then you go, no, I think Canada's actually pretty good. It's a pretty
yeah.
good spot.
I find it's very easy for people to say those things when they have the comfort of a Canadian passport in their pocket.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah, you're right.
right,
You're right.
yeah. So when they have a Canadian passport in their pocket, they know home's home. They know here's here. And even from a geo, like look at my map up there, right? Like that's North America and South America. But even from a geographical position, there's really no safer place to be in the entire world than
Well, we
Canada.
don't
For
even
me,
have dangerous system. There's no
ice
crazy
storms.
spider that's going to kill us. I mean, we have ice storms, but we don't
Yeah,
have. I mean, we really don't get a lot of the heavy, tornadoes, the
no,
typhoons. We get them every once in a while, but nothing really, on the daily, so to speak. But there's no
yeah,
like scorpions. I mean, it's a great spot, from that
yeah.
perspective.
Like Vancouver is a fault line going through BC, and the Atlantic region has the oceans. But at the end of the day, like huge chunk of Canada that they could move to without having to cross even a lake to get
Yeah,
to, or even
yeah.
a river. I don't even think there's a river they have to cross to get there to get across Canada. So,
That's right.
it's good. So yeah, Canada is and even with I'm sure you may have heard the terms climate refugees, right? So, there is this there is a situation we're expecting to continue as climate shifts, as flooding or environmental dangers, very higher cases of need to leave situations. Canada is going to be one place for that. So that's what, believe it or not, there's so many reasons why people are bullish on real estate in Canada. Believe it, and I'm one of them.
Yeah, I think real estate's gonna, it's one of those things where, I mean, I did a study looking at real estate, and you compare the interest rate of today, which, at the time of this recording in 2023, has risen, to a 40-year high, in the magnitude of its increase or whatever it is, 40,
Mm-hmm.
30. You compare that back to say 2007, is probably the most close that we can get to. And you compare the cost of real estate back then to the cost of real estate now, and then you factor in inflation, just raw inflation over 20 years, we're at the same
Right,
price,
right,
so it's not as if there were the housing, while it feels painful right now, the only thing that just hasn't hit was the increase in incomes, right? We
right.
haven't seen every inflation shown everywhere except for the middle class income. And I think that's just the painful element of where we are right now. And I think I agree on being bullish on real estate. I think I feel that way. I think Canadian real estate is
Right.
always a solid investment, and so I'll continue to believe that way for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know we're talking real estate here, but in terms of the global situation, all in all, and everything that's going on, Canada is actually, I know inflation's high, I know real estate's high, but it's a common problem. We're not the only ones, right? So, most of the developed world is going through the same thing. And when you look at Canada, another thing too is real estate and the biggest bubble. I'm not saying it isn't. Like I don't know. I'm not like I'm in real estate. I understand it, but I'm not an expert. Even experts don't know. But when you compare real estate values to other first class countries or cities like Toronto, for example, Toronto doesn't even show up on the map. Doesn't even show up on a list, right? San Francisco's there, LA's there, Tokyo's there, London's there, Paris is there, Singapore's there, but Toronto's not even on the map. So,
well, I mean, we think our real estate is expensive, and I spent a lot of time down in Miami, and you compare our real estate prices to the cost in Miami, it's dirt cheap, especially when you factor in the conversion of Canadian dollars to American dollars.
right.
I think, and then the cost of our interest rate, because Americans, sometimes pay a little higher interest rate than Canadians do. It's cheap compared to a lot of other places.
Yeah.
Even under today's price, even under today's interest rates.
Absolutely. And then you throw in the most progressive immigration policies in the developed nations, right? You have pro-immigration no matter which side of the coin you're looking at, whether it's liberals or conservatives or whatever political party there is. So there's a lot of reasons to be bullish. So yeah, that's I think
anybody who looks at immigration in a negative way, in my opinion, and this is just my humble opinion, doesn't really take into the context of what is required to sustain a country. I mean, you look at the country of Canada and you say, okay, well, once you get all these baby boomers retiring, number one, who's going to take all the jobs? But more importantly, who's going to pay all the taxes to support all these systems that have been created?
Right.
If there's nobody in place to be able to pay that, your system's going to start to fall apart.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Like, people are looking at the U.S. like, why is U.S. immigration tightening up? I'm like, look at the demographics. They're actually one of the best in terms of developed nations, the developed world in terms of the demographics, right? And maybe that was because they adopted their immigration policies much earlier. Maybe because they border around Mexico and was able to, there's a lot of young population coming through there. Like, I'm not entirely sure of the U.S. demographics and why it's that, but it is far better than Germany, than Canada, Europe, a lot of Europe. Japan is I think everyone, most folks should know about demographics. Japan is actually probably, they're past the point now, pretty much. They're kind of in some serious trouble. But, serious trouble, but I think they've adapted. I think they've found some creative ways to maybe work it out, but still. So immigration, Canada was and still remains to be in the forefront of that. If those who know immigration very well, like my colleagues who know the space, know that, we also have a phenomenal immigration system called Express Entry, it's an incredible system. I personally don't like it from an immigration expert because it's a pain in the butt to deal with. Like, there's so many changes and it's just really hard to pinpoint. But as a Canadian and as someone who wants the best for Canada and the country and wants immigration to be positive, it's a phenomenal system. About the hot and cold shower. If the water's too hot, turn on the cold water a little bit. Water's too cold, turn on the hot water. Just fine. And that's exactly the system we have. It's incredibly malleable. So, and that was launched in 2015. So that system's here. It's been around for almost 10 years. And Canada just keeps leaning on this phenomenal system to kind of help with the immigration strategies.
So when you look at that and you say, okay, you talk about you interface with that system, I always wonder, why do you have immigration consultants? Like, why didn't people just deal with the government and get through? And like, what value would somebody like you produce? Like, I don't understand it.
Absolutely. No, and that's a good question. So let me ask you, if you go to court and you got a speeding ticket, is the prosecution and the judge trying to get you off your speeding ticket?
Probably not.
Right.
So I don't speed too often.
When you're applying for immigration, Canada's not trying to get you approved, right? Canada is just assessing your application, and they're especially when there's delays or they're backlog, they're brutal. Yes, no, there's no line in your certificate for your setback, right? So though you think Canada has a very progressive, and it does have a progressive immigration system, you really can't afford to make mistakes. And it's also the fastest changing law in Canada. Honestly, I could say immigration changes every 2 to 3 days. Some needs to change.
Really?
Whether a program opens up or closes, whether there's a draw, whether there's a, something happened here, or there's a geopolitical crisis coming up, like there's always something changing in immigration Canada somewhere. So
Mhm.
the reason why someone wants to lead towards an expert is you don't want to make a mistake here. He can't fix your problem. So
Yeah. Yeah.
money can't fix it. Connection can't really fix it. So, you don't want to screw around with that. It's kind of like doing the plumbing and electrical work in your house. Sure, you could do it, and then you board it all up. And all of a sudden, you made some pretty big boo boos. That's even that analogy is not even a fair representation. I've seen clients who made most smallest on a very simple work permit for a postgraduate work permit, and guess what? Complete disaster. Like, got to fight tooth and nail, and it's very discretionary. And also, that's another thing too. A lot of immigration, it's very discretionary. Like, especially when you're dealing with like study permits and visitor visas and work permits, it's up to the officer. It's up to the officer to look at it and make a determination. So why hire an expert? I tell people, listen, you could do 80% of the file yourself, but I have a wealth and my team has a wealth of knowledge every single day, every single morning. My entire team talks as a team. We have brainstorming sessions every single day. And so we have knowledge of thousands of files going through, and oh, something came up. Okay, how should we solve it? Well, we applied this on this strategy award. Let's do the same. And a lot of great experts aren't passing out their information online for free. I find that there's a lot of folks who, if you're spending a lot of time on social media and getting a market following, all that, great. But that means you're not spending a lot of time to actually doing the files or supporting the team that's doing the files. So, that's what I've noticed. So, long to answer your question, I just think it's way too big of a risk to mess around with.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. When you look at the pricing, like, is that something that gets absorbed in some Canadian program, or is that something that they're absorbing themselves? How does that factor in from a cost model for them coming in the door?
So, what do you pricing in terms of?
Yeah, if they were gonna recruit somebody like yourself, are they paying out of pocket for that, or is a program
Oh yeah,
paying for that?
typically, yeah. So there's two spectrums. There's legal aid. That's usually that's for refugee specific cases.
Hmm.
So refugees have legal access to legal aid. Now, legal aid is capped fairly small, right? So a lot of the great practitioners don't like legal aid, so they do charge. And then the entire industry, you for the most part, you have to pay for the service. So give or take, the service could be the cost of a round trip flight for you and your spouse if you happen to have a spouse. So it depends on who you're using, what services, and whatever the case is. But the cost of your flights is like sometimes it's more than that, but gives you a ballpark. Depends where you're
Depends if you're flying on Swoop or something.
or direct or not direct, right? So yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Exactly. Okay, so there are a few $1,000s or whatever to kind of get things going. Is that about right?
Yeah. Like, I find that, at Bright, our fees are fairly reasonable.
Mhm.
We like to kind of keep it that way. But of course, it does, even as a business person myself, it depends on what's going on. It depends on processing times. So what happens is when we're handling a file, we're completely liable, right? So that's why, I'm very big in accuracy when I speak. I think it is, you should look into versus, it will. So and I tell that to my team because if I'm asking you a question, you're giving me an answer, I need to know, is it or I think it is. Two very distinctive differences.
Yeah,
So,
that's very important.
and that's another thing I recommend. There's lots of great professionals out there, people who know their stuff, but immigration comes down, in my opinion, to a lot of, just like any occupation, really, sometimes it's a balance of knowledge, creativity, risk taking, risk assessment. I'm a big person in risk. Sometimes I'm talking to a client, I'm like, you know what? Your chances, I got to tell you, isn't the world's best, but here's your option. Either you do it or you don't do it. Or you don't do it, you go solve it, give yourself some more strength, and take 2 years to do that. And then when you phrase it that way, clients like, no, I don't want to switch. I'd rather get an answer, take a chance at 20%.
Yeah,
My job is
yeah.
to try to set the expectations as honestly as possible, make sure people know what they're signing up for.
Okay, excellent. And when you look at the um, when you engage with them, are you engaging them pre-country, or are you engaging them as they arrive? Like, how does that occur? Are they back home saying, "Man, I should probably retain somebody," or are they, as they land and then either a year or two into it, they're frustrated and then they reach out?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Good question. It just depends on what you do. Some firms have presence overseas and a lot of focus overseas, some inside of Canada, helping those who go through that journey. And then, and obviously those who are inside of Canada typically have a lot of exposure overseas too. So we have tons of clients referring us. Bright is actually a lot of our business. We also have a lot of outside too. But what I've noticed is, and this is what I've noticed through my experience, is when you deal with a firm or deal with experience of people inside of Canada, their knowledge base is far wider because they're dealing with someone who's refused, dealing with someone who misrepresented here, dealing with someone that is dealing with the mistakes that their first agent you represented. And I use agent because a lot of overseas people are licensed. They technically non-licensed. So that's what I find. I find that when I have conversations with immigration professionals who specialize more outside than inside, I find that their knowledge is right with those who deal with immigration.
So as a immigration firm, you need to be licensed in Canada. Is that correct? Is what you said?
Well, yeah. So basically, in order to give advice and provide the service of working on immigration, you need to be either an immigration licensed consultant or a lawyer. You cannot be a paralegal. You cannot be any other, you can't be an agent. So there's a lot of agents overseas offering services, charging people. It's financial fraud and then immigration fraud is right out of there. So it is a big industry. There's a lot of people who don't have proper represent. There's no regulatory framework. There's no ethics standards. There's no license and emission insurances. Like there's nothing there, right? So,
So what happens in those situations? So talk to me about how somebody gets caught up in that.
caught up
Where
in,
like the pitfalls of dealing with a company, and what can they do to make sure that they're not dealing with somebody who is, of that fraudulent ilk.
right. So, the first thing to pay attention to is the law society. Every province has their law society, and CICC, which is the regulatory body for immigration consultants. You should be able to find that person online, see that they're licensed. Make sure you're speaking to that person as well.
And what's
Well,
the website for that, just for the listeners as to?
the law society, it varies each province. So you want to search like law society material directory. It's usually pretty easy to find the list. Just search up the name, and then it'll say if you're active, what your status is, and make sure they're lawyers, not paralegals. That's important to recognize, because law society doesn't recognize paralegals to do it, which means insurance, those things don't take hold. And CICC, I forget the acronym, believe it or not, at Canadian Immigration Citizenship Consultants, if I'm not mistaken. They recently did a name change. I just never picked up. I always get the C's mixed up. So that would be the second regulatory body, and yeah, that's important. There's otherwise, what's funny? I was doing some research. Toronto Star posted an article, I believe in 2019, said that like 90 something percent, so a really high percent of files were unrepresented, which the newspaper made it seem like, hey, these are people who did it themselves. Completely wrong. Those are people who use unauthorized people who would not put themselves on as representative. So if you're using a non-representative person, right, overseas, they're not there signing a form saying, I'm your representative. Of course not. You're just putting your name on it. So what happens is actually there's never representation. They're just doing that, taking money, misleading people. A lot of times it's a wild west out there, which is why I kind of got into it and why I feel a couple of the projects we're building on is for this particular reason to combat people being taken advantage of, not even by unlicensed people who still try to do okay, but there's a lot of people who are just out there scamming people who have pretty much very small chances of immigrating, charging them $5, $10, $20, $50, $100,000 to immigrate to Canada. People are giving up their property, selling their property. Like it's crazy. There is a whole. I'm waiting for someone to do a documentary on it because there is a massive, very dark side to immigration.
Yeah, I could definitely see that, and I know in the one of the businesses we own, which is the mortgage business, and we see people come over, and you can see that they've been packaged in a way as they came in from out of country into country in a way that is very fraudulent. And you know exactly what they're doing. They come over with a big chunk of money, they come over, signed up to every disability program under the sun, and then they work all their cash jobs on the side, and they're buying houses. And we can't deal with them because all their documents are fraud documents. We tell them that, and they say, well, we'll just go to the bank and pay the teller $5,000. They'll get it done. And, because they've been trained to handle things that way. And I find that extremely unfortunate because it's not necessarily the individual. And I know they're party to the transaction, but because they've been sort of coached, this is the way to do things. And they might have come out of a country where in that country, I mean, the idea of the hand, the cash in hand handshake with the police officer is a normal transaction.
Absolutely. You nailed it. The concept of fraud is normal. There's a normalcy to it, right?
That's right. And where that's the way that the vehicle that they get into the country, they think exactly what has happened in their country is the same here. So keep on with the status quo. And the people here get very frustrated at the individual. And I look at it more as the systemic issue of solving the problem from a system perspective, so that when they come over, there's almost like I wouldn't say an indoctrination, that sounds really bad, but a process in which people can learn the rules of the land and the mechanisms of communication, what fraud is, what laws are, and
Canada
why they're
does Canada does nothing. Canada doesn't do anything like that. They provide some settlement services which are extremely underutilized. Canada does nothing like that. So, it is. We see it. Everyone's got their own opinions with immigration. It depends. Like again, I just deal with a lot of people. Like I've done over 10,000 consultations. A lot. Seen the ins and outs. And you got, and how many refugee files we've represented too, ever. And the reason we've only done 2 and we don't do them is because I'll be frank, like we don't, our reputation is incredibly important and we don't stand behind, some of these things where I'm sitting in an office and it's very clear that I'm dealing with someone, with a family and a partner of the opposite sex next to them, and they're claiming homosexuality and they're claiming refugee claims, right? And then, there is a lot of support given. And so anyways, there is a whole aspect to immigration. Remember I said financial fraud, immigration fraud, right? So, and they're not that far apart. They're fairly close. So that is a big thing. And one thing I'll urge the listeners, if you're going to use an immigration representative, make sure you know the reputation that they have, because what happens in a lot of cases where, I don't know if you heard about international students who were scam documents, or 700 of them, or there was quite a bit of folks who lost citizenships, got the citizenship revoked. It tied back to the representative who was just doing some shady stuff, right? Or a legal representative. So sometimes I've heard stories where a CBSA officer would ask, who's your representative? So make sure you're using a really reputable representative. So that goes a long way. And I keep seeing that over and over again. And that's one of the reasons why, I'm not trying to plug here. I'm just really trying to explain it's important that in the immigration space, you run in a reputable manner for the sake of your clients and for the sake of other people, right? And just like accountants, right? Accounting, that's a good example, right? Once because some accountants doing some really shady stuff, CRA picks hold of it, guess what? All of their clients are now audited, right? So
exactly.
It's fairly similar. So yeah, that's something. And that's kind of why, we've been building some of the solutions we've been building, really just trying to combat some of those things and help people, do you have a chance or do you not? Like realistically, all I'm interested in is finding people who are actually qualified to come, motivated to come and work with them, or people who don't mind taking a chance at maybe a 20-30% chance, but they know it and they understand it and they're willing to do it because, it's worth doing it than not doing it.
Now, when you talk about those other programs, what are specifically that you're working on? Tell me a little bit about those.
Yeah, thanks. So basically two platforms and
specifically the problem they solve.
Yeah. So one of them, I'll start off with the problem we were just discussing here. So it's called ImProved. That's spelled with 2 M's. So we're about to launch. But at the time this recording comes out, hopefully we've launched. And
so what is it called again?
Sorry?
It's called which?
It's called ImProved. So I've improved my chances with 2 M's. So 2 M's for immigration. So And
Yeah.
what it does, basically, you fill out a questionnaire and it immediately gives your immigration options. It tells you how many points you have. It tells you what you need to do to increase your points. It tells you, is your work permits available to you? Is there any other? There's over 110, and then when you combine work permits, you're well into the hundreds of options and ways to immigrate. So Improve makes it really streamlined, very simple, for free. People could at least get enough education to take it from zero understanding to 80%, 70%. So now if they come across someone who's like, oh, I can help you immigrate, at least they're more educated. They could actually see, well, explain to me how that's going to work. So that's improved. Of course, we're building that tool up. We're going to take all of the experience we've taken, built over the years, the logic that we've put in place, our practices of immigration. We want to build that out to a digital solution. And then
Nice.
the second platform we have, it's actually Canada's largest and Australia's largest immigration tracking system. We have over 180,000 users over the last 4 years, and it's called ImiTracker. So that's IMMI Tracker. So if you just Google ImiTracker, it's quite prevalent out there, and that allows users to track their immigration file and other files and other people's files, and it gives them far more predictability in terms of when they could expect the decision to come out, and how things are progressing with their files compared to other people's. The thing that's beautiful about that is community driven. So people are literally signing up, putting in their own data, and it's great. They're not incentivized. They just do it. Pay them to measure what you're doing, but more importantly, just to kind of get back to the community. Look at the power of ImiTrack and realize how the immigrant community works together. And it's not just in one country, it's various countries from all over the world. So I think ImiTracker is something that warms my heart just because I see community. And it makes me very excited to tackle some problems and try to help the world not be taken advantage of, not have people who aren't the better and that great off give up everything, So that's really what we're hoping to do here.
That's really exciting. I think the idea of a portal for somebody to be able to log in and really see real data rather than being bamboozled by somebody saying, I'll get back to you. I think that is, puts the power in the hands of the people that need it.
Yeah,
Sure.
absolutely. And as I said, immigration's fast as changing. So when immigration changes, we know your profile will send you alerts that you should be paying attention to. So, these are some of the things as an immigration expert and being in the space for so long, this is the pain point I see. Like sometimes I speak to a client a year ago and yeah, we have a CRM system. Yes, we do all that. But I'm thinking, oh, this person would have been a perfect fit for this, right? And then you deal with people who come here, international students, and it's really sad to see some of the challenges. Immigration's hard to understand. There's a lot of pieces in, right? So, it's not easy. If I was an issue, I would be feeling the same way. So we built that to really address that challenge for them.
Now, if you're going to leave them with one thought, something that, probably the biggest thing that if somebody was going to be surprised in this space, not in the positive way, like they won the lottery, what is the biggest thing that you would leave them with?
Someone who wants to come to Canada.
Yeah, either somebody who's dealing with somebody who's being immigrated, somebody's looking to recruit somebody's immigrated. We can pick whatever topic you want, and find that surprise that is you're going to unearth it, so they're not going to be shocked when this happens.
It is. I think it's the hardest job in the world. So whether you're going through immigration yourself, you hire a representative. If the representative's good and they care about what they do, just know that they have probably one of the hardest jobs in the world. My colleagues and in the field, I have as a chief of college, struggle conversation with that. I said, not everyone's got really tough jobs and big weight here on his shoulders, but immigration experts, especially the ones who really care, the ones that it hurts when things it hurts themselves. That's probably the thing I would say. You're dealing with the governments, dealing with people who don't have they're not citizens. You're dealing with clients who probably never spent as much money in their lives on a service ever. You're dealing with government. You're dealing with a faceless entity. I can't call. Maybe I get lucky and speak to an agent, but they'll just tell me what I could just order the notes for. So there's no human personality touch. in some areas of immigration, yes, you have a face-to-face. That's a very small percent. Most of the time it's through a paper application, or online application. So yeah, like I think that's why I think it is one of the hardest jobs. And of course, you make a mistake, it could really ruin someone's life and
Absolutely.
generations to come.
So the crab fishermen have it good, is what you're saying.
The what, sorry?
The crab fishermen have it good.
Oh yeah.
They're supposed to have the most dangerous job or whatever, the most difficult job. Yeah.
Most dangerous job. Yeah, absolutely.
There you go.
But, immigration, amongst other occupations, I don't want to make it seem like it's the only one, but I don't think people realize how hard this occupation is. If I gotta keep going back to tree care, I just know there's quite a bit of people out there who don't. They just want the money. They don't care if they make mistakes or mistakes just happen. We are Bright. We really, I could count the mistakes we made over thousands of files, and I know each one, and we build systems to make sure it never happens again. So it's really important to me.
Well, again, you know what? I really want to thank you. How do people reach out to you to make sure that we've got your contact details on the recording?
Yeah, absolutely. You can visit www.brightimmigration.com, or if you need help with immigration services, you can also check out it's www.getimproved.com. Again, that's with 2 M's. And then ImiTracker is www.ImiTracker, IMMITracker.app. So, but if you Google it, you'll come up. It's pretty high ranking there, so you'll see it. But yeah, that's how you can reach me. I'm happy to help anyone that's going through a journey. If you just need some honest advice, give me a shout. I'm happy to give that to you.
Now, do you get free M&Ms when you come visit too? Because you love the double M's.
Yeah, I guess what's free? I guess that you're in the office. No, it's absolutely. We're happy to help, happy to guide people. I take great privilege. I think it's important. A lot of humans look for a purpose or want to give back. Though I have a stressful job, so my team, God bless them to do so. But one thing is, get to serve purpose.
That sounds amazing. Well, guys, if you want to check them out, make sure you visit those websites. Again, we've got brightimmigration.com is the central one to hit, and definitely check him out. He is a true advocate for the people that he works for, and has a heart of gold. So thank you so much for your time today, and everybody go check him out. And Triple M Nation, that is a wrap for this week's episode of the Money, Mindset, and Mentoring Podcast. This is your host, Steve Hamoen, reminding you that success is not just a destination, but a journey that we take together. I hope our discussions today have sparked ideas, challenged your thinking, and ultimately equipped you with strategies for financial and entrepreneurial growth. Remember, every challenge is a stepping stone towards your goals, and every victory brings you closer to your vision. Let's continue to learn, evolve, and reach for the stars together. Stay tuned for next week's episode, packed with more inspiring stories and insightful discussions. If you found value in our time together today, don't forget to subscribe, share, and review us on your favorite podcast platform. Until then, keep fostering that growth mindset. Keep leveraging money as a tool for your expansion, and never stop believing in the power of your dreams. This is Steve Hamoen signing off. See you next time, Triple M Nation, on the Money, Mindset, and Mentoring Podcast.